Hi, friends. Welcome back to the 360 Experience and another conversation that I have in store for you with Kelly Marsh, who I want to tell you a little bit about. Kelly is a really amazing woman. She is a former client of mine. I haven't coached her in a couple of years, so we're reconnecting in this call, which is really joyful for me. She is someone who I respect and admire greatly. She is not only a terrific loan originator that has consistently funded over $100 million a year for many years in her career in Santa Barbara, California. She's also an amazing leader. She's caring in her approach to the way that she takes good care of her team. She's a thought leader for sure, and a very creative woman. And I think that you'll see that in this conversation that we have for the next 90 minutes. And I really respect and admire greatly her passion to her path of personal development and growth, which will come through, I'm sure, in this conversation as well. She's with Cornerstone Mortgage, as I said, in Santa Barbara, California. And before I bring Kelly onto the show, I want to remind you, as I've said in a few of the previous episodes, we have made all of the post-podcast coaching sessions from me, where I debrief the conversation for 15 or 20 minutes and share with you some additional depth and wisdom on these conversations. We made all of those post-coachings available to you for free. Click on the link in the show notes to this episode. Please also remember to subscribe to the 360 Experience on whatever your favorite podcast channel is, because that's what's going to get the listenership up for me and our team, and then allow us to get even better guests on the show for you. The more eyeballs we have, the more people want to be on the show, and then you benefit from it. So without saying any more, besides clicking on those two links, I introduce you to Kelly Marsh and the 360 Experience. Enjoy. What are the common denominators of top originators in the mortgage business? They're well scripted. They have a system for marketing themselves that generates leads. They manage an effective database, and they have strong referral partner relationships. The other common denominator of many great originators is that they have a business and life plan, a roadmap, a guide for them to achieve success, and they have an ally, a coach, who assists them in the successful implementation of that plan. Performance Experts Performance Accelerator private one-on-one, one-year coaching program is now accepting applications. This is my company, and these are my certified coaches that specialize in the mortgage business. Go to www.mortgagecoachingnow.com and click on Get a Coach, or go to the show notes and click on the link that's provided in this episode. Now let's get back to the show. Hey. Hi, Kelly.
Hey. Hi, Tim.
Long time no see.
I know. It's been a long time.
How have you been?
I've been good. It's been a journey. Like anyone that's in the mortgage business, it has been a journey the last 12 months, and I've been good. Just learning new things.
Figuring it out, learning new things. That's what the mantra needs to be, right? It's
figuring it out.
Yeah.
Grit.
Yeah. Figuring it out, being open to learning and being creative and curious as to what this is meant to teach you, and all kinds of good shit, like that. Right, Kel?
Very much.
Well, we'll dive into some of that stuff in a little bit, but I think that the listeners need to know a little bit about you. So, maybe tell us a little bit about who Kelly Marsh is. And by the way, it's cold as shit here in California. Are you cold?
Yeah.
What's going on?
My hands are freezing. My office, when I walked in this morning, I came early. It's like 56 in the office. And so I had my space heater going. Anyway, yeah, us Californians, we're not used to cold. Well, us Southern California beach, we're not used to this cold. But anyway, so I am, I'm in Santa Barbara, California. I was born and raised here. I have essentially grown up in the mortgage business. I got my license, which was our real estate license. I got it when I was 20, and I started originating loans at 21. I am now 47. We have the same birthday month, so yes, I'm 47. So I would say I've been doing loans longer than more than half my life. Married. Happily married. Jalen, our son, is going to be 13, which is crazy. Wow. Seventh grader. So
good baseball player too.
Good baseball. Yeah. We just got back from Vegas. Their travel ball team won the tournament. So it was super fun. And that's actually how Mark and I met. As you know, we met playing competitive adult travel softball when we were a lot younger.
Yeah. When was the last time you swung a bat? Has it been a while?
We go to the batting cages
Oh,
occasionally, but
cool.
yeah. And then I'm like, oh, my back, that swing is just, I think we're going to pick up golf now. We're
You
at the
know,
age where golf.
so you may remember this. I don't know if you knew this story, but when I turned 56 years ago, a bunch of the crew in L360 chipped in money and they bought me like a dream 50th birthday gift, which was to go to Dodgers fantasy baseball camp, which
Yes.
was an amazing week. One of the best weeks of my life, being like a kid again. Well, on the first day, I'm taking batting practice and they're like scouting us because then they pick teams and then you play games all week. And I swung and missed at this like low and away, like curveball that the pitching coach threw to me and tore my oblique muscle. And like I have pictures of like my whole left side of my body being black and blue.
You
So
showed
it's
me
like,
that picture.
yeah, yeah.
Like our worst nightmare as an athlete, right?
Totally. This body is it goes through its stages, and I think that stage
Yeah.
is over for me. I tried to take it easy. In fact, I was having dinner last night with a buddy of mine, a really good friend of mine from college who I've known, way more than half my life. And he's a triathlete and he's got some back issues. And I was just like, bro, like for me, it's like, I feel like this body has like been through a lot. I've worked it hard, it's
Yeah.
given me a lot of mileage and now it's time to like be a little kind and gentle to it. So I'm not crippled when I'm 75, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
So back to mortgages. You have been in the business a long time. So what that means is you have the benefit of wisdom of experience, which is not something that can be taught in a classroom or with an online e-learning, educational program or anything. You just got to go through it. So
Right.
you're going through it again and you've been through it before, as have I. And what are some of the things that you're finding that are like really important right now? I mean, you're still originating loans, right?
I am. I am
Yeah.
still originating. I'm putting together total cost analysis, structuring. I mean, I have a team, but I'm still that advisor to the client. Yes.
Yeah. So what are you getting back to right now? Or what are you doing that's brand new right now that you feel is critically important for you to be focused on to originate loans and to be able to be successful in this market that we're in?
I think there's a couple things. Like, first of all, kind of getting over, our negative thoughts. We got to get into the right mindset, right? The mindset is everything. But what I'm doing, like in terms of tactical things, I've been doing some really intimate, small lunch and learns. I used to do these big grand, the Biltmore in Montecito, have 120 realtors attend, and it was
I
awesome.
remember those. I remember those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Biltmore is currently still shut down, which is a super big bummer. And there's obviously beautiful hotels in Santa Barbara, but what I started thinking is like the big show. I mean, there's so much stuff to it, organizing and RSVPs and lunch orders, and it's just a little chaotic. So I'm a member at the University Club here. It's awesome. It's this old mansion they converted to like a lunch dinner club. And I have these little small intimate lunch and learns. And so our spacing is limited. So we have 16 max. I'm doing my fifth one next in March 7th. And it's been awesome. It's a great way to connect with the realtors that, we haven't talked to in a long time. It's kind of created some buzz. And so now I have people requesting to come to the lunch and learn. So it's been really great. And it's just teaching them, educating them on the markets, the Fed funds, inflation rates. What does it mean? I'm not selling them on product. Here's this really great product. I'm actually educating them on, what does recessions mean for housing markets? So really kind of giving them, I mean, if people walk away going, wow, like, everybody's pumping product versus I'm trying to educate them on will history repeat itself, housing shortage, we're all aware of all the things, but the media just, I don't know if I can use F-bombs here, but the media
Of
really
course
screws
you
it
fucking
up.
can.
They really fuck it up. And they're just fear driven, housing bubble, all this stuff. So I'm just trying to get to the facts. And it's been actually really fun. Really, really fun.
So I have a question, but beforehand, I'm gonna make a comment that the thing that I love about what you just described is, I mean, the old mansion and the 16 people, I believe you said, and
Mhm.
you're simplifying it. but it speaks to the fact that it's also really important for it to feel special. And I would imagine that when it's more intimate like that, and especially since you're doing it in a rad place, like you're not just like running a conference room at a hotel. I mean, you're creating an experience, you're bringing great content, and you're keeping it small enough to where it's almost like a privilege to be there. And I think that that's a really important thing. Do you want to comment on that? Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people hadn't been there. I mean, I think about like logistics, like parking, the experience. I mean, I know all the people there, Christy, Sarah, Concho, Jaime, like, hey, hi, like I'm a member. And I just am really proud to bring people to the club so they can experience it. Maybe they'll join. It's really inexpensive. It's ridiculous. It's like a country club without any of the golf and
Yeah.
tennis. But I love it. I really love it. And I love the people. So, and I'm all about that with relationships. So yeah, I think that, and then one other thing I didn't mention is I've been adding in having a real estate landlord tenant attorney come do a guest appearance. She's a great friend of mine, and educate the real estate industry of kind of what's been going on in California around landlord tenant laws. We have some pretty interesting landlord tenant laws, like California tends to be the leader in all the fun things. And then Santa Barbara itself has a separate rental ordinance. And so again, I'm just thinking about like, I want to differentiate myself. I don't want to go out there and, pump marry the house, date the rate, or 2-1 buy downs and, sell. Yeah, that's product. I get it. But what else can I help them understand that they could take to their clients that are on the fence? I want to wait till housing goes down. I want to wait for a recession. I want to wait, CNBC said there's going to be a housing bubble. And so just thinking of like value. How can I make them better?
Yeah. And the thing that I love about that, I'm curious if you ever have this experience, is that if you can teach that stuff in a super articulate way, like, you're presenting it, you've taken the time to really like practice this presentation to them, and you deliver a good presentation with the right wording and the right scripting, is that a lot of them are going to, I think, say to you, hey, I don't know that I could say that, but would you mind saying that to my potential sellers and my prospective buyers? And I think that it's important to even insinuate that you'd be happy to do that should any of you need me to, because then now you're starting to get really partnered with them. You're really an ally. Like they can't sell some of the stuff that you're talking about as well as you can. And if you could get in front of the seller, now you're starting to have some control of that transaction. And then you can also, drive the purchase of that seller's next home. So there's some great benefit there. Have you thought about bringing in, like, eventually? So I used to do these types of, I used to do masterminds, right? So you're doing lunch and learns. They're a little bit different. So actually I'll ask a question first, which is, how long do they last? And I think you said you do them once a month. Is that right? And,
yeah, I'm doing them once a month now.
And do you have did you come up with like a whole curriculum for 12 months in advance, or are you continually after each one trying to figure out what to talk about next?
I have a PowerPoint, and I have been tweaking the PowerPoint as I go. I've been kind of well, first of all, I update the data with inflation and the trend of what we're seeing and when it peaked, and so I'm kind of continuously tweaking it. I'm not reinventing the wheel though. I'm not reinventing the wheel because I feel like our environment, our season is we're still in this shift. So I'm eliminating a couple slides. I'm adding in, like, I listen to, MBS Highway, Barry Habib every morning. They'll share some slides. I was just at Momentum Builders. They've got some great slides. So I'm just always thinking like, I'm going to replace that slide, but I'm not reinventing the wheel. So it is essentially the same presentation. I'm not speaking to the same audience. So it might feel repetitive to me, but the audience is different people every time.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Thank you for clarifying that. I was kind of assuming that it was, I guess I was projecting my past experience into yours, which is that you would have the same group of people back and have different content every time. So how are you getting, okay, then that creates another question. So how are you getting 16 people to show up? What are you doing to market this to your local real estate community? And, what suggestions do you have based upon what you've learned in terms of making sure you fill the seats?
Yeah, so I asked one of the local larger real estate offices if I could come in and do a quick visit with their office meeting. And I wanted to talk about, kind of what I've been doing. And so she's like, "Great, yes, come in and do, for 15 minutes." So I had a really quick punch list, no PowerPoint, standing in the middle of the office. There was probably like 75 agents there down the hallways, kind of spread all around. So I was like trying to like talk to all of them, but I said, look, I'm going to be hosting a lunch and learn. Why don't you email me? My information's on the flyer here, which I didn't bring enough flyers, had no idea there'd be 75 agents. I said, my information's on a flyer. It was just like bullet points, real basic, nothing fancy. And I said, just email me and let me know if you want to be part of the next lunch and learn. So I had all these emails of people requesting to be invited to the lunch and learn. So that would be one way. Get in front of the board of realtors, sponsor if they do meetings. We do a once a month meeting, like get in front of them. I did a 3-minute summarized version of an hour PowerPoint, right? I did a 3-minute, kind of what are the things like myth busting. I'm going to bust myths. Like when the Fed is going to raise rates, our mortgage rate's going to go up so I just kind of like busted some myths. And then I said, I'm hosting a lunch and learn, to send me an email. So I'm just kind of, I don't know if I'm dangling a carrot, but I said, I'm kind of dangling a carrot. And then I have my sphere of realtors I work with already. And I haven't, I've not been the best about connecting with them the last 3 years or 10 years, but so I email them.
310, it's all the same.
It feels all the same, right? But so I email them about it, and sometimes I don't get a reply, and sometimes I get yes, or sometimes, like for now, I have I asked 3 times for the last 3 months, and now I finally have one coming that I'd been asking. So I mean, it's just planting the seeds.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
again, it doesn't have to be 12, 16. It could be 6, it could be 5, it could be 4. It's not the quantity. It's really just about you providing value.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of different ways, or a lot of different ways to dangle the carrot, as you like to refer to it. But I think at the end of the day, that's just great marketing. I mean, what content can you create right now that you're comfortable speaking to, and in what medium and what format? Is it a clip? Is it a reel? Is it a long form format? And then putting good, valuable, quality content out there and saying, hey, if you want to know more, I'm hosting this. I mean, it can be done in a live office presentation format. It can be done, via various social media mechanisms, certainly. And you can go super old school and put together a flyer. I just don't think it's as dynamic and is going to speak to the person as much. But have you thought about, like, one of the things that I think is really valuable when you get a group of people together like that is having them leverage the collective intelligence of each other. So do you have any type of masterminding that happens at the end of these, or anything like that? Have you considered that?
No, but I do say, because it is a group, it's a small enough group, and we're in this kind of private room. It's got windows. It's really cool. And I just say, look, this is for you. So raise your hand, interrupt, comment. That's what we're here for. So I don't want to just be the talking head. So I'm always, I'm very good at reading the room and reading people and energy. And so, somebody's like, and I'm like, yeah, do you want to ask a question? And so then they can ask me a question. I think, again, I've always been a student of economics and housing and inflation and recessions. And, this is the highest inflation I've ever seen in my adult life, or since I could remember, right? So like educating myself to where then I can educate the real estate community is actually a passion of mine. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And so that's really what I'm there to do, but I do want it to be interactive. And of course, the landlord tenant part, everybody's like, okay, wait, you're saying what? Like, wait, I own rental properties and I can't do what? Like, it's just crazy, our landlord tenant laws here in California.
Well, that's good provocative content that's going to stimulate questions, and it may not be fun for the listener.
I leave her for the end. Because she's like, no PowerPoint. Like, it's no PowerPoint. It's just like, here is, whatever the new code is. Anyway, it's pretty intense stuff. So
that's your verbal clickbait at the end that has them sticking around because they have questions as a result.
Yeah.
what type of loan production are you doing right now? Like, what did you do the last couple of years, and like, what's this year starting off like? Just so we can have some perspective on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I humbly say, so, obviously, I think 2020 and 2021 were, obviously record years for anyone that was in the industry. You could have just gotten in the business and you would have your best year yet, right? So really, I mean, I've always been traditionally over $100 million. I did 200 million in 2020 and 100 and I don't know, 60 some million. It's so hard. I don't know all my numbers in units, but I will say last year it was a struggle. I mean, it was a struggle. I had to focus on my team and shrinking my team. I had loan officer leave. I had way too many support staff. So we ended the year, production wise was about 56 million. And that was my lowest year since I can remember looking at numbers. And then this year we're starting off. So my goal really is 10 million a month has always been my goal. And so we're right now, I've done a $5 million a month, a $4 million a month, $3.5 million a month. So, all purchase business, but yeah,
Yeah, but
and it's working hard for it.
yeah, I know that, especially since you have jumbo loans and you're having to compete against City and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and there's not a lot of options to compete with. But you also know that, and I know that this is going to probably sound like, yeah, easy for you to say, Tim, because you're not doing loans anymore, but the longer that it goes, that the rates are where they are right now, you can, and this goes to your mindset thing, by the way. Let's dive into the mindset shit, because I know you love that
Okay.
stuff, and that's what I love more than anything.
Go deep. We're going to go
Yes,
deep.
we're gonna be
Deep sea diving.
dropping quotes and referencing books. So I think that it's when you're in those moments of struggle and you're like, shit, like I'm only doing 4 loans this month, and they're all
Yeah,
purchases and there are no refis, and every one of those 4 loans is a future refi. Like, so
absolutely.
it's almost like the more loans you can do at 6 plus, the better in that
Yeah,
regard. Like, you can shift your focus to, I'm going to probably rewrite this person twice in the next
yeah,
3 years when they're taking a rate out at 6 or 6.5. And so there's annuity income being built. So it's very important that right now you're like spending a lot of intimate time with your clients and really servicing them well and setting up the next deal and talking to them about how you're going to manage your debt for them and all those types of things.
yeah.
So mindset, like, well, first of all, like, I'm aware of, and I want to spend some time talking about this here in a bit, but I'm aware of what a passionate leader you are, and culture is a huge thing for you, and you're outstanding at it. So I would have to imagine that last year was really hard for you emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of your teammates have been with you for a long time, at least last I counted. And tell us a little bit about that and how you had to manage your a mental and emotional state around this difficult issue of perhaps even feeling. Did you feel any regrets, as an example, that like you maybe could have done a better job as a leader, or did you not have any of that experience, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel, responsibility is my number one strength. I'm a big strengths finder. We're a strengths-based team. So I felt extremely responsible for the lives of my team members, for, the weight of their career was on my shoulders. I remember getting some calls from, corporate, which I totally respect and honor. Our company was a little more aggressive at the beginning of the shift to make reductions, to require reductions. And that was kind of a new thing for me. So I fought it hard and I cried. I cried and I was shaking, thinking there's no way I could do what I have to do. I will say that when the shock of the reductions that I had to make kind of settled in, and I talked to my mentors, people in my life, my family, I realized that, this is the test of me as a human to be able to go through this season that really, really fucking sucked, and have these conversations with team members that had been with me for 10 years or longer. And I will say that when I got the courage because I waited till the last day that I was required to do it kind of thing. The team members like, Kelly, here's the deal. Like, don't feel bad. I get it. I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready. And so although it really sucked, and I will say that the team members that are no longer with me today, they were like, I'm so grateful for everything. This has been an amazing run. And you know what? I'm kind of ready for a change. Like, it was so weird. And so I was like, wow, they made it actually really easy for me. I was harder on myself, and that, it took a lot of courage, and I was scared shitless to have these conversations. And I honestly was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. The first thing I said is, I can't do my production without, XYZ person. I can't do, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. And now that we've shrunk the team, and to add to that, Tim, really is that my top producer loan officer, there was companies paying big, 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 big signing bonuses. And he'd been with me for 7 years, and we were friends. And I don't blame him. I think, the move for him was the right thing to do, but it did. That was the very beginning, like January, February last year, a year ago. So I had that happen. I lost, 80 to $100 million producer and the market. So it was like a double whammy for me. So yeah, it was humbling to say the least. I had a lot of not great mindset moments.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much to talk about here. So, I guess let's talk at first about, how unbelievable of a storyteller we have inside of all of our heads, and how it makes up a bunch of shit. And
Yeah.
we really got to challenge our beliefs and our stories that we tell ourselves, because you're not the only person that I've had this conversation with. I mean, I've coached many people that, were frightened about that moment of having to, you know, and it's always so difficult, right? Coming on the backside of having just made a shitload of money for 2-3 years, and they know you made a ton of money. And then it's like, how long do I wait, but to not display that I'm ungrateful, and just display loyalty. And then, like, how much should I hemorrhage? And then we start getting into our own head, and making up all these stories about how they're going to feel about us. And I mean, I've coached a lot of people through that, over the last 6 months or so. And a lot of people have had the same experience that you did, which is a lot of it was their story. And in some cases, as you said, some people were actually relieved, but I think that they just want to know, right? Like, I think that's the thing. They want to see that you care. They want to see that you've tried hard for them, and that
Yeah.
they want to feel that you're grateful to them. And then the rest of it's really not on you, and they know that. And I think that as long as and I would have to imagine that all of them felt that way about you, because I know how much you care about them. So yeah, what about the mindset? How did you work with that? Like, what did you learn? What are you taking away as the gift of this difficult experience? It's, as Brent Hicks
Mhm.
says, every moment is your tormentor and your teacher at the same
Mhm.
time, right? So, like, who was your teacher in this, and what did you learn?
I learned to allow myself space to react like a little baby and a bitch for that first, maybe it's a week. And poor me, I wouldn't even give myself a week. I would say, like, initially in the moment, allowing myself to be, in the flight, fright, freeze mode. And then just say, okay, you had your space, like, you had your moment. Okay, get yourself up off the floor, pick yourself up, take deep breaths, and just know there's a reason this is happening, and this is a good experience for me to go through. So I started kind of looking at it as, okay, give me my moment, let me, shed a tear, feel sorry for myself, and then go, okay, like, this is where the true test of a leader, of all of the work that I did with you, all of the work I continue to do on myself. This is all those teachings right now. Like, let's dig deep. And I kept saying this is a good, and I know this sounds probably shallow or shitty, but it's a good resume builder. This is a good resume builder. Like,
Oh, I
if
like
I
that.
can get through this, like this, it's like everything in life. It's not just going to be up, 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 up to success, right? It might be like up, 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 ooh, ooh. Now this was a big ooh, and I hadn't had a big ooh. Like, I opened my operation here in 2009. I was a loan officer at a mortgage broker office, and I opened a mortgage banker office all alone and just signed my name to a lease, personally guaranteed it. I just gotten divorced. Like, I was like, I got an equity line on my house if this all shit hits the fan. So I thought, you know what? I've done this before. Why can't I do this again? So it was harder last year than anything I ever experienced in my career ever. But I just kept saying it's a resume builder, Kelly. Like, this is the true test of me for my future.
I just had a metaphorical thought, like I'll throw it out there. So like, what if, like, while I was listening to you, had this vision come through me of like these peaks and valleys, right? Like, so you're going up and then you dip down and then you go higher and you dip down. And like, what if every valley, every fall from that individual peak was actually the momentum that you needed to then go higher? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when you look
Yeah.
back on the things that, like, and not everybody's experiences this, of course, because some people hole up and they, 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 they just get scared and they freeze and they stay frozen for the rest of their life. But there are certainly many occurrences in my life, and it sounds like yours as well, where you've had this perceived dip where like things are getting shitty, but it actually was the momentum that you needed to figure out how to make what, or create what you needed to create to go to the next level in your leadership and your sales and your life and your relationships, all of it. I mean, does that resonate for you as I say that?
Yeah, it really does, because for me, it's like I also had this epiphany a couple months ago that my identity was my production and success.
Mm.
So I lost my identity
Mm-hmm,
last year.
mm-hmm.
I felt like I'm nobody now. I'm no, there's no worth to me because I'm not in the top production numbers. I was always number, 3, 4, 5 of the company. Oh, okay, I'm now 30, 35, 40. Okay, my identity is gone. And so it took me a moment. And then when I started really focusing on gratitude and waking up and seeing, what my husband and I built, our house, and just being like, we're okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
We're
So
gonna
there's
be fine.
there's a shift that's happening, and I think we need to just drill down on that for everybody's benefit, because you're doing some really amazing teaching right now. So when we like slow that down, you had the moment on the floor, you had your cry, you threw your fit, whatever. You were trying, translation, you were resisting change and you were trying to control something that really wasn't in your control. And there was a point where you realized this is ludicrous. Like, I've got to give up and shift. What wisdom do you have in terms of like somebody that's like, let's say you just have somebody who right now in this moment's like I'm not sure like if I can get through this. So like they're having those like really strong negative thoughts and beliefs. Like, how do you advise them to shift? You mentioned gratitude. Maybe you want to deepen that. Is there anything else that you would suggest for people to do this reframe? And before I give it back to you, I just realized, just 2 days ago, my episode with Gay Hendricks just aired, and it's really great. And he did such a wonderful job. And he talks a lot about, reframing belief structures and the things that are holding us back. So feel free to go there if you want to go into some of his work or somebody else's that's in the same vein as well.
Um, I think, gratitude is, it's amazing how, okay, what we resist persists, right? So we're fearful, we're fearing this, we're fearing that. And it's a particular thing, like we're fearing we're not going to have any business, we're fearing this, like that's going to persist. And it kind of is the same thing as what we focus on expands. And so when you recognize where you're at, and it's okay to recognize that you're in a real shit place, you recognize it. And Julie and I worked on this when I was going through some trauma with losing Marky. I worked on this. And I actually practiced it this morning, and I can tell you a little bit about what happened, but I practice releasing my attachment to an outcome that I can't control. Like releasing, I am attached. So I'm a control person. Responsibility drives me. I'm competitive. I want significance in this world. So I have a lot of things that I want, and I get attached to it. Like I am attached to a certain amount of production. I'm attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, well, what can I control in that, right? I can only control my actions and what I do and how I show up. And so I just really have to, I like visualize releasing this negative thing that is just eating me up and, looping in my head and wakes me up and loop, 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 loop. Like if I have to release it into the universe, I visualize it going and I just keep going, release it, release it. I can't control that. I can't control the market. I can't control where the rates go. I can't control if my clients get their offer accepted or not. We have a ton of clients, but guess what? We're still 40% cash, and it's now back to 15, 20 offers right now on homes. I can't control that. All I control is how I show up and I get my clients positioned to the best ability I can. I don't know if it answered your question, and I kind of went around here, but I just think it's like gratitude, recognizing what it is that's eating you up and focusing on releasing it into the universe, and fill our minds, our eyes, our ears, our words with as much positivity as we can.
No,
Seriously.
extreme clarity, and I'll add a little bit in a second, but I want to ask you a question about the release part. Are you doing that in meditation? Are you doing some type of visualized meditation where you're releasing this thing that
I
you're holding
wouldn't
on tight to, or?
I wouldn't say it's that structured, I would say I recognize it and I go, okay, we're going to release that. I have to release my attachment to that outcome. Okay, remember, I got to release it. I can't control it. And I just say it inside my head, maybe externally, and I just visualize it. It's not in any kind of like morning meditation. It's just like in that moment. I don't always recognize it. Sometimes it takes me a couple weeks to recognize it. And then I'll be like, all right, I gotta I gotta release it. It's not serving me.
Oh, it's causing suffering. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
anytime.
Festers.
And thank you very much for sharing this, because it's great for me to hear for my own personal growth and development too. I mean, it is a practice. It is a process. It's not an event.
Mm-hmm.
No one's saying that it's easy. There will be times where something that is deeply rooted is difficult to just let go of, because there's just such an extreme amount of fear and uncertainty around it. But it's a choice. And if you choose not to, then you're left with really one thing, which is suffering. Because anytime we're trying to control things that are beyond our control, that is the root of all suffering. So there is an incredible amount of liberation of energy that is available when you let go, that you can then reallocate to solutions and creativity and curiosity and growth and learning. But if you're expending all of your energy holding on to something that you can't really control, you don't have that vital energy for creation. And that's like such an important part of what people need right now, right? Like, I'll give you an example. There are 5 of us that just finished or are in the process of finishing the Clean Cleanse. I think you know what that is, right? From
Yeah.
Alejandro Juncker. Okay. So I just finished yesterday, and a couple of my clients are going through some really difficult shit right now. And they've both told me, like in business, and they've both told me, like, I cannot believe what a miracle this cleanse was for me, because my mental acuity, my emotional stability is so much more clear and uncluttered, and I'm able to get through this challenge in a much more elegant way. And I think that it's like really important for us to understand that when we are holding on to things, it's like a huge backpack that we're lugging around with us. And I think that the part that's so important, Kelly, is what you shared. The most important part, I think, is the acknowledgement of it. That's such a huge part. Like, there's so many spiritual teachings that I'm aware of over the years and learning that they always start with that. Like, acknowledging your hurt, acknowledging your pain,
Yeah.
acknowledging your fear, and owning it and feeling all of it, because that's what ultimately dissipates it. And then you can move through it, but you got to walk through the fire a little bit. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Anything else that you'd want to add to that before we maybe pivot to something else?
I think the only thing I'll share is I think the most powerful example I have of releasing my attachment to an outcome I cannot control is really when it's about a person. You want something for a person, or you want them to act a certain way, or you want them to do something, or you don't want them to do something. And so that exercise was life-changing for me, when I learned to release my attachment to an outcome I wanted for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and I use it in a lot of different ways. And I also think when you said, like, acknowledging, like, and I was so fearful, and I acknowledged I was fearful, and that actually helps you kind of move through and move on past it and get to like solution mindset versus trying to resist the fear, resist the fear, resist the fear, resist the fear, resist the sadness, resist it. Then it just persists.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowing it to move through you.
You're giving it strength.
Yeah.
You're
What
giving
you resist
it more
persists.
power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the passing of your father and everything that he went through, was that a teacher of some of this to you, about the resistance of somebody else's experience and trying to control it?
That probably, I mean, I actually never applied that to that concept to my dad. My dad battled Alzheimer's for 13 years. And that disease is so torturing. You lose your loved one, slowly, sometimes slowly. So I had mourned my dad dying 4 years before my dad actually left this planet. You go through this, I mean, and it was, so then you kind of, that person's gone, they're gone in their eyes. And, there's little triggers of occasionally. And I had a really powerful moment with my dad. After Marky died, my dad died 6 weeks later. I had a really powerful moment where he literally came back into his body and like rubbed my leg and said, "I love you." And that was like, and then he died, I think it was 16 days later. It was just like this God moment. So
Wow.
I will never forget that moment with my dad. And then, there's just these things that cement into your memory bank. Like, you remember how you felt, you remember where you were sitting, you remember your surroundings. Like, it's just so powerful. But I can't remember, what I was doing, yesterday, but you can remember that moment. So.
Yeah, I think that we remember the moments when we are truly connected, like in a very deeply intimate way, like, with God, with another human being, with a moment in nature. But when we are truly present and connected, and we can really feel all of that experience, that's hard to forget, because it doesn't happen as frequently as it should for most of us, or at least for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me.
Right.
So the experience of how's your mom, by the way? I'm sorry, I want to ask that question.
She's great. Yeah. So she's great. We all live together. So we're roommates.
Oh, wow.
Get along great. Yeah. So we built our house, we were building our house over the last 2 years. Well, it's been a year and a half since we've been in it, but our whole, we always intended for my mom to be with us. So she's got her own space, little kitchen, but we do have dinner every night. She's just an amazing human being. I had a very, very, very blessed childhood. I think I realize that more every year goes by in my life. I realize how blessed I was to have such a normal, loving, stable childhood. I had no idea it was kind of the rare thing. I didn't know. I do now know.
It is quite rare, I think, for most
shockingly.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ram Dass once said, you know, if you want to know whether or not you're enlightened, go home for Thanksgiving dinner. You know,
Yeah.
because your family is always going to be a trigger to you. I mean, there's no question that, you know, there's always a cast of characters in all of our families, in most people's families, that
Yeah.
are great teachers, right? I mean, they poke at our wounds and trigger our greatest insecurities, and we learn from those people very much so. Do you need more referral partners right now? When I was a $230 million producer, I executed on specific strategies that helped me develop relationships with realtors, accountants, financial planners, and life insurance agents. And I've now put it into a product called the Complete Referral Partner Success System. Gang, these are strategies that my clients are using successfully right now, real time, to give them a competitive edge. And for podcast listeners only, we're knocking $400 off the price. Normally it's $899. For podcast listeners, it's only $499. Use the link in the podcast show notes below or go to www.performance-experts.com to find out more. Once again, www.performance-experts.com, and we hope that you are enjoying this episode of the 360 Experience. What are you working on personal development wise right now? I mean, we talked a little bit about it from the perspective of how you got through those difficult months of having to let people go and really acknowledging what your worries were. What are you working on going forward, like in this moment, and what do you aspire to work on?
So I really was working on my health. I had not been the best to myself in my weight. So I've really focused on that, which has been a lifelong journey for me. So I'm finally in a good place, and I'm, getting back to where I want to be. And I haven't been at this particular weight for, gosh, since my 40th birthday. So 7 years ago.
Congratulations.
I have a little ways to go, but I will tell you, I have cut down on drinking tremendously as part of this kind of health journey. You and I talked about, like, I love detoxing. I love juice detoxes. What I had found out is I started using my juice detoxing as a crutch. So it would be my, like, Hail Mary 5 days before I want to go somewhere. And then I'd go on vacation and gain, I'd lose maybe 6-7 pounds juicing, and I'd gain 10 on vacation. And then, it was, so I forbid myself to use it as a Hail Mary and to really create healthy habits and just cut down on the toxicity. I love my cocktails. I will say that, I feel better not drinking as much. So, it's a couple times a week here and there, but it's not front and center. Through COVID, eating, drinking, staying home, working our asses off, making tons of money. Like, I wasn't the healthiest to my body in terms of what I was eating. So I will say that journey since like November has helped me tremendously in how I show up emotionally. It was such a demon for me. It has been such a demon. My weight, my self-consciousness, it impacts how I would show up in my life, in my personal life, my professional life. And so I would, have stress about what I was going to wear. And oh my gosh, I couldn't even look at myself in pictures, or, and I'm just really hard on myself. And that's being totally honest. And so it really has helped me tremendously in my personal growth. I feel like I'm getting back who I was, that was kind of buried for so many years. And yes, I had tremendous success, and I'm in a happy marriage. It's not like, oh, woe is me, but it was this nagging demon failure, just a constant failure. And then I would get like, well, fuck it. Fuck it. Just give me the M&Ms, pour myself a vodka, fuck it. And I've stopped that. Demon.
What's that martini called? The M&M martini. Is there a specific name for that?
I should make it. Yeah, just M&Ms with a vodka. It's just. So I really feel like I have tamed that demon. That demon will probably always live within me, and I will, acknowledge that, but it's not going to dictate me anymore. And so that was probably in the last 4 months has been the biggest change for me. And now I'm like excited to get up and get ready. And I'm excited to go to the lunch and learns, and I'm excited to go speak here or do this. And it just it unfortunately plays such a big role in how I show up, inside and
Yeah.
out,
I mean,
sadly.
I think it plays a big role in how, I mean, I think we all feel better about ourselves if we look in the mirror and we like what we see. And some of that liking what we see is our physical body. I mean, obviously there's more to us than our physical body, but if if we don't like what we see in the mirror, it really has, it can create quite an uphill battle in a lot of areas of life. I mean, Josh Burris, in our conversation that aired in early February, he talked about this. We were talking about the cleanse at the very beginning. He said, I thought it was a very profound statement. He said, in a period of time that was really tough, one thing that I can control is, the fuel that I put into my body and how much I exercise and how I look and all of that. Like, there are a lot of things happening that are beyond my control right now, but I can control that if I devote myself to that. And that can be a catalyst for just building momentum, right? Like momentum in terms of like, it's interesting. I don't know if you remember on retreat, way back now, about 4 years ago, but we talked about in a process called the agreements that we make, right? Like, and when we make agreements with ourselves and then we break our own agreements, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to slow down my drinking, stop smoking weed, God forbid, whatever. Have you drank that swimming pool yet, Kelly?
Oh, that was a moment. That moment, I remember that moment too. That was a fun moment.
You
Laughed,
yes.
laughed.
You and Cookie in the back seat,
so hard,
rolling around back and forth.
I will never have anybody do the bowling game again.
That didn't sound good, by the way. Let's just be clear. You and Cookie were not, rolling around. You were playing the bowling ball game, and I was driving like an idiot on the freeway, and you guys were cracking heads against each other.
Yeah. But it was fun. Nobody was hurt in the making of that. We were good.
Almost, though. Almost. It's a good thing the car doors were locked. The back to what I was saying. Sorry, I deviated there. If we say that we're going to do those things and then we don't do them, then it starts to erode our confidence in ourselves and our own word, right? Like, and the
7 years, Tim.
Yeah. I mean, it's a setup. You're almost better off not making the commitment, because it's so important that that when you say you're going to do something, that you'll do it. Like, that's like a huge momentum builder in life. And I'm really happy for you. First of all, congratulations on losing the weight that you've lost and feeling good about yourself. More importantly, I'm happy for you that you've shifted the momentum, and I could see why that would be a catalyst to. I like going to the lunch and learns now, and and then people start validating you, and it's always that initial hurdle, right? It's like all the pain, no gain for the first period of time, whatever, a month, 2 months, whatever, until then all of a sudden it tips over, and you notice a little drop in the waistline, or somebody says something nice to you, and then, okay, now I'm going to keep going, So, what are you doing? I'm going to shift back to business now for a second. What are you doing to stay in touch with your past clients right now? I know that database management's always been something you've done a really great job of. Sorry for the pattern interrupt. I don't know why my mind is kind of popcorning all over the place. And
okay, let me close the filing cabinet. Let me open the work filing cabinet. I'm hard on myself, right? So I know we could do better on database management, but we send kind of this quarterly update. We do annual review check-ins. I think over the last 3 years, well, really 2 years prior, I refinanced the majority of my database. So keeping in touch with them just organically happened because we refinanced them. We do some auto stuff, some auto email stuff. We're really rolling out now. My theme for 2023 is execute. First, it was execution. And I was like, oh, I don't think we should execute. Because I have all these ideas. And then I feel like I lack in executing the idea. Like I have the idea and then something gets distracting or we get busy and then we never execute on it. And I always admire, like Ryan Grant, like he is like the master executor in his business ideas. He's just, futuristic, like he has an idea and he executes it. And so I'm like, I need to execute. So why I say that is that we have a really big initiative in 2023 to execute on a better database, cultivation, which would include a little more outreach on annual financial reviews. We call them annual financial reviews versus annual mortgage reviews. So AFRs, where it's not just sending them a postcard and a reminder email, it's actually calling them to schedule, 30 minutes with me. So we're doing an outreach. So many clients are like, but I'm at 2.75. I'm good. And it's like, yeah, but I just want to check in with you and see how things are going. And so kind of be more intentional about it and not just rely on the automation of a CRM. So I would say that would be one thing that we're implementing. We're doing a year-long for our purchase transactions where we've executed this kind of gifting program for our clients where we're touching them quarterly with some really thoughtful gifts. And we're doing very consistent quarterly check-ins on phone calls. How's it going? How's the house? What's new? And so that would be for the first year. We're doing a lot more check-in. And then after that, they roll into the annual and then postcards. And I mean, again, I'm tweaking it all the time.
Yeah, there are certain people that I coach right now that are doing extremely well still, funding, mid-20s, low 30s on a monthly basis in this market, which is outstanding. And the common denominator always is that they just have a lot of relationships, right? Like, I mean, they've stayed in touch with their past client database. They've built a big sphere of influence of referral partners, and they're staying in touch with them on a consistent basis. And I think that in that annual review, excuse me, there are other things that you can be seeking to accomplish beyond that of just checking in with them on their current rate. I mean,
right.
There are people that might want to buy a second home or non-owner occupied property. I mean, people are always wanting to diversify in real estate, especially with rents having gone up as much as they have. You can get some reasonable yields right now. So especially the high net worth clients that you deal with, that could be something that could be very much at play in the conversation. But then there's also just like, what other areas of finance do you need help, or I can make an introduction?
Trust, estate planning. We had a client that sadly they were walking their dog, husband and wife walking their dog, and they were hit and run and both killed. And they didn't have a trust, and they had 2 small kids, and it got really messy with, family, and that they had no will. So the court decides who's going to take care of their children. The house wasn't in trust. And so it just really hit me that we're not transactional. We've never been transactional, but we need to do a better job of helping guide our clients in all aspects of their life. And the trust thing it really hit me on that. I have a trust. I've always had a trust, and I have a CPA, but so many people, they don't know where to turn, and I could just be a resource for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry to hear about those people. That's terrible.
It was, it was a couple years ago, and it was heartbreaking. It was in, Goleta, right? The town next where I grew up, actually. So it was heartbreaking.
You commented on the, you want to be the executioner, I think you said.
Execution. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I think if I need to drop the ION, I'll just do execute, the TION. Yeah, execute.
So, as it relates to executing, the thing is that I don't really feel like you have to do a whole lot of things great in this business. I think you need to do something great. Like, I mean, I think that there are a lot of different options to choose from. You could be great with referral partners. You could be great in managing a past client database. You could be great in your system of customer service, which I think is very important. You could be great at sales and certainly marketing strategies. But at the end of the day, you got to be great at something, because that's what's going to be your secret weapon, right? That's going to really catapult you. And managing an incredibly effective database that you stay in touch with people, it can be in many cases enough. I mean, it may not be enough in a market like this because you're just not getting enough referrals to new purchases from your existing client database, but it certainly can be more valuable than, any referral partner you have. In my case, it was more valuable than all my referral partners combined. Like traditionally,
Right.
you look at it on an annualized basis, it wasn't even close. My past client database was worth way more than all of the realtors and accountants and financial planners that I worked with on an annual basis as it related to where I got my business from. But the interesting thing was that if you're not careful, you could easily spend almost all of your time in that bucket that doesn't yield as much, which is the realtors or the accountants, and then forget about your database and almost take it for
Right.
granted, and not really devote the time and energy and commitment of creativity towards it. And when I say commitment of creativity, like, what are you going to send to them? How are you going to touch them? How are you going to remind them of who you are, and transform the relationship into a friendship, and these types of really important strategies? You could end up leaving a lot of money on the table if that's not the focus. So I'm glad that you guys as a team are really locked in on that. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, and having a CRM, right? Managing your database, your realtor database and your client database and your other sphere of influence database. And I think one of the problems with our industry is that loan officers like myself, we tend to chase the shiny objects. What's the new thing? And we put all of our resources into it. And I'm not at all saying like social media, but social media is getting so much attention, right? Like social media is the way, like video and social media. And I'm not opposed to it at all. I am slowly getting there. But we're missing the mark in like our database is our raving fans. We should have our database as our raving fans. Let's not forget about it. And our database, our clients aren't all on social media. So we can't just put all our eggs in one basket over here and forget about our database, or forget about our realtor partners, or forget about our other spheres. Like I work with the affordable housing at the city and the county of Santa Barbara. I work with UCSB. Like you can't forget about that. So you got to kind of come up with your plan to where you can be pouring into each channel, and you might invest more into one channel, right? Your main business might be like financial planners, like Craig Strent, like financial planner business, or, some people get more business with their realtor partners. I think it's important that you don't forget any one of those channels.
Agreed. And it's interesting, as you were saying that, I don't know the stats on this. I'll run it by you and see if you agree with the statement. But the more I think about it, it's like, I wonder if, more of a traditional database management strategy with deployment to people's emails, as an example, and some type of direct mail pieces occasionally and stuff like that. So more old school. I can't believe that email is old school, but it is at this point.
It is now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's actually not much more effective at the end of the day than social media, because social media has become cluttered with so much. And it's like, there's just, everybody's there, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
I log into my Instagram and it's like, I don't even know why I'm following half the people I'm following. I mean, I see their reels and everything. It's just like coming at me all the time. And I'm like, I hardly even know this person. Why am I following them? And I'm
Right. It's the algorithms though.
Yeah.
See, it's like they're all trying to master the algorithms so they can hit this audience outside of their friends. And hit. So again, your database, even if you are friends with them on social media, that doesn't mean they're going to even see your content.
Correct. And if they do, is it standing out? So like my point is what ways of, like, even like, I don't really hear people talk about slide dial anymore, but I don't know why you wouldn't use that sometimes too right now. Be like, hey, you just record a generic message. Hey, it's Tim and Brahim, and I just wanted to call and say hello and wish you and your family a happy President's Day weekend. There's been a lot of movement in real estate. If there's anything you ever have questions about, always know that I'm here, but just most importantly, have a really beautiful weekend, boom, and just hit the whole database with that. Like, they're going to hear that. I mean, it's going to have more impact than you.
Text us. Text us is an awesome texting app, texting web based, and then it's an app. So like my office phone number is my text number. Instead of using my personal cell phone to be giving that out, we use text us, and you can do text us broadcast. So you can do a broadcast text message as well. So we have to adapt, like we have to see like, okay, what's working now? And I think, you could also do an email to your database, but instead of doing a written email, you do a video email. Like you have a
For
video
sure.
embedded.
For
Like
sure.
now that could be more. I mean, I'm not going to ever say that that's not going to be more. That's going to be more effective than sending a newsletter that you're going to expect someone to read. I mean, unless you can read it in 5 seconds, they're not going to read it. They're going to hit delete. But if it's a video and it's like boom and something like, hey, that would probably work
I think it
better.
depends on the market. Like, I'll push back a little bit on that in the sense that, like Jay Dacey, who's in Minneapolis, I don't think you know Jay. He's a wonderful guy, and he's I don't know what his production is right now, but he's probably doing 15, 18 loans a month, somewhere in that range in today's market. But normally like a 30 a month guy. Almost 100% of his business comes from his database, and it comes from him writing a one page, like full one page. Sometimes it goes on in the back, monthly letter to his client database, telling them about what's going on in his life, telling them about things that he's learning. Just, it's like Scotty Evans used to do this too. I think he probably still does. In the Midwest, in a place like that, like I think people are slowed down a little bit more, and they're a bit more connected, and they will take the time to read something like that a little bit more than a fast paced place like, Los Angeles or New York or whatever. You got to know your database, I guess is my point to some extent, in terms of what
Yeah.
medium to communicate with them on. I totally love the idea about, just a video every once in a while too. I mean, I think you need to just mix it up, and you need to stay connected. But the one thing that I would be, a little bit careful about is like there's this real estate agent that I know in Westlake Village that, um, I met him when I used to own the restaurant, and we exchanged numbers. And then all of a sudden I just started getting like text messages from him, every like 60 days or so, happy Thanksgiving, this, that, and everything else. And I kind of quickly realized that this is a bullshit, like prefab, salutated to the phone number text program, because it started to feel very impersonal. And I think
Yeah.
that that's something that we always need to be careful about, because if we're really looking to forge connection, like true connection, because that's where the meaningful business relationships come from, and the meaningful relationships that we get to enjoy, of course, then you got to take the time. I mean, you got to take the time and actually put a little heart into it, and not phone it in, because if you phone
Yeah.
it in, they're going to start to feel it.
Yeah, agree. We want to do business with people we know, like, and trust. And I think authenticity, that is what I live for, is being authentic. No smoke and mirrors. People can smell bullshit. We're getting smarter as a society to smell bullshit, hopefully. But, we can smell it. We can feel it. Communication, 70% is nonverbal anyway. Doesn't matter what you say, it's how you make them feel.
Yes, Maya Angelou, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maya Angelou, good. We finally got our first quote in. We haven't recommended any books. What are you reading right now?
I actually am reading, I do audibles because, my hands, I love to read, but my hands, I've got tendonitis in my arm. And so anyway, I love audibles. So I just finished David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me. That was intense. It was good. It just kind of reminded me of like our limitations that we put on ourselves and our bodies, and how powerful our mind is to tell us we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. Whether it's athletically or it's something else. So that was really good. You Can't Hurt Me. Um, and then I'm currently listening to Barry Habib's Money on the Streets.
Oh, cool. Very
It's
cool.
really good. I actually like getting to know him on such a different level,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm fascinated by him.
Does he narrate it?
He narrates it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's cool. That's
Audible.
very
It's
cool.
really cool. And the David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me. What's so cool about that Audible is that the person that helped him write the book, I don't remember his name. I think it's Adam something. He narrates the book, David Goggins, but then David Goggins, they're in a studio together, and he's reading the book, and then they pause and they have like a podcast discussion. And so then David Goggins and this guy, the reader, they have this discussion around that situation that happened that you're reading about in the book. So it's
That's
like
a very cool concept.
fascinating. Yeah. And they talk about, there's like, this is the first podcast Audible live stream. I don't know. It's really cool. Another book I really love is Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Medcalf.
What's that
That's a
about?
really it's about like, consistent, like compound effect, consistent, like do the basics. Don't try to go ahead, like master your craft and just be consistent. Like the example is like watering, bamboo. When you look at bamboo and you water bamboo, nothing sprouts. And it takes like 9 months before bamboo breaks the surface, right? So then bamboo will break through, a little sprout will happen, and then it grows like 16 feet in like 6 weeks. I don't know. I don't know the details, but it's the whole concept of like, just keep pursuing, keep practicing, like the basics. Chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water. So it's like this samurai
Wax
training.
on, wax off, right?
Yeah, it's like a samurai training, like this concept. The basic stuff, but you're going to use that skill in life.
Well, but I mean, it's always that, right? I mean, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy Rich last night. We had dinner together, and he's the guy that founded Loan Toolbox with me, and he's a tremendous businessman, a really great human being, and and he was like, we were walking out to the car after dinner, and he's like, the problem. We're talking about one of his buddy's sons, or no, actually a friend of his who was trying to start his own business, and he's in his early 30s, and he's like, the challenge with this younger generation is that a lot of them just think it's just about an idea and venture capital money, and there's nothing more to it than that, and it is way more than that. It is about the blocking and tackling. It's about doing all the little things right. So
Mhm.
so there are no smoke and mirrors, as you said. I mean, like it's just got to be done correctly, and I could see where a book like that would be incredibly beneficial.
And
You
there's
need
no
any
magic potion. Like you can't just like watch a 10-minute or a 60-second podcast and then have all the information to succeed. It's like we're such an instant gratification culture now. It's just like we want things fast. Like social media, there's so much science behind what they're doing and scrolling and reels and how our human mind works. I mean, our human mind is like shifting to this current, you know, technology, social media world. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, have you checked out Chat GPT yet?
No. What's that?
You know what that is? Oh, you got to go
No.
check that out. So we're going to actually do a mastermind on it in about 30 days in the master's program because it's needed. It's you got to go to openai.com. It's in partnership with Microsoft, I believe, but Elon Musk
Okay.
is behind it, et cetera. And at the top of the screen, at the very, very top, you'll see a little hyperlink to Chat GPT. You got to go check it out. It's an open sourced, maybe the best way to say it is like a word processing artificial intelligence. And
Yes, I have.
I could be
You
like, I could like type in right now, like, write me an email to Kelly
yes.
Marsh, inviting her to be on the 360 Experience podcast on this date. And it will write this beautiful email. That's it.
Yes. Like write me an essay on like the 1920s, blah, 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 blah. And it'll like write you this. Yes, I have. At first, when you
And then
start talking about
you
it,
can
yeah.
cheat in school that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Actually, I'm on the board of school, Providence School here in Santa Barbara, and they did discuss that
Mm-hmm.
and how high schools, junior highs are going to have to figure out a way that they could try to decipher if something came from that source. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. There's a lot of opportunity for that type of stuff to be used in the wrong way, and
Mm-hmm.
even more wicked ways than that, which is the frightening part, and knock on wood on that. But I can also see where could be very, very beneficial, to streamlining one's business. I mean, think about just like as an example, like if you're putting together the perfect loan process. I was thinking about this yesterday. In fact, it was like, wow, with ChatGPT, like one of the questions that I always get from people when I'm teaching the perfect loan process is, yeah, but do you have the email templates? Do you have the letters that, you send out at a certain time during the process to the listing agent? Do you have the, whatever written correspondence you would want to use as a part of a proactive system for exceeding people's expectations and customer service? Like this will write all of that shit for you. It'll write it for you
Yeah.
in like moments. It's like crazy,
Yeah. I can see that if you use it for good, just like everything in life, right? We can use things for good or we can use things for evil. If you could use it for good and it gives you kind of this draft, you could then put your own spin on it too. Like I'm a really good, like, give me the idea and then I'll expand on it
Yeah.
and I'll make it like me. But to start it from scratch, I have a harder time starting from scratch. So that could be actually a really good way to kind of get your template and then still customize it.
I think you have a lot of creativity. I think that that's an element of your personality. I wonder if it's because you're a Capricorn. I don't know that because
Maybe.
I am, because I think I have a lot of creativity too, but I do see how when you get an idea for something, you then like to create from that baseline and make it your own and think of what it can be and tweak it and, you know, massage it and make it really special, right? Isn't that, wouldn't you say that that's a part of what you love doing?
Yeah, I do. Because I scream with authenticity, I can't just be a plug and play, like, here's a script, like, read the script. I can't do that. I can be like, thank you for the script. Let me go ahead and put it into my own words, my tweak, like what feels good to me, what feels authentic. Some people can do that. They can read a script and have success and like follow this ABC system and it works great. I love the idea and then I'll get my own creativity on top of it. That
Yeah.
feels good to me. It feels really clean and clear and I can look myself in the mirror and say, this is what I believe in.
What would it be like to spend an entire year with 3 coaches, including myself, and 11 top producing originators from around the country, to go on an 8-day business and life planning retreat in Costa Rica and to spend 4 days at my home in Southern California with a lot of coaching in between? The Leadership 360 Signature Program, our hallmark program that we've been doing for 10 years now, is now accepting applications for Group 11. We only take 12 people a year. This is the only private one-on-one coaching that I do at this point. Go to www.leadership360now.com or go to the show notes and click on the link and apply, and we'll get together. We'll set up an interview and we'll start to have a conversation. Now, back to the show. Shifting a little bit, what makes a good leader?
I think what makes a good leader, first of all, vulnerability, humble.
Yeah.
I'd say, it's never about you and your agenda. I think if you really truly care about making people better, that you lead from behind versus from ahead. And I mean, you have to be the example, right? You have to lead by example, but you also have to be a good listener. And it's not just, and I'm still learning on this. It's not just my way. It's just not my way. I don't know. I want to learn from who I'm leading and listen to them and let them shine.
Humility, right?
Yeah. Vulnerability is a big one.
Yeah. The thing about vulnerability too, as a leader, is that it cultivates trust, which is, I think, maybe one of the most important virtues of leadership. Because if your team doesn't trust you, then you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, you're only going to go as far as they're willing to go with you. And in order for them to be their best, they need to trust you. And when we don't show vulnerability and we're not authentic, then trust is broken. And without trust, I just don't even think you have leadership. I once took a workshop at Esalen, Joseph Campbell workshop, and the facilitator of that workshop made a really profound statement. He asked me the question specifically in front of everybody: where does a shepherd lead from? And I said, where is the flock in proportion to the shepherd? And he's always leading, he or she is always leading from behind. Mm-hmm. And keeping an eye on everybody and moving them forward. And metaphorically, that really lines up with, I think, with what you just described, doesn't it?
Yeah. And checking in with your people, like, you need to do weekly one-on-ones. You need to check in.
You still do that? Are you still doing those weekly one-on-ones? I remember when you made that shift, and that was probably 4 years ago or something.
Yeah, I've been a huge believer. It's not that you have to do it with every single team member. I mean, my team's small now, so I'm able to do that. But if you have a big team or you have a region, like you can look at like having the leads of their departments meet with their people one-on-one, and then you meet with your leads in your department one-on-one, and then everybody's kind of having this like one-on-one connection. And what's so powerful about that is that you can make small course corrections and process improvement and have more feedback, like that doesn't feel like you're barfing on someone. It's much easier to do course corrections or workflow or behavioral corrections, whatever it is, when you're doing one-on-ones than, oh, I haven't met with them for 6 months. And guess what? Like, I want to fire them. They suck. But you've never given them a chance. You've never given them any feedback. It's all just like brushing it under the rug, and then it becomes this big pile of poo. And then you have so many stories, and it's just, but I truly believe that had you done one-on-ones, there could have been, you might end up that they're not the right fit. That might still be the end result, but how you leave it, I think, in the relationship and the respect that you would have for each other would be completely different if had you done one-on-ones.
Well,
Had you done one-on-ones.
And it gives her an opportunity to let some of the air out of the tire too, right? Like if you go extended periods of time without checking in with your people and getting feedback from them, there's an opportunity for a lot of stuff to build up, and get
resentments.
Yeah, resentments and things like that. What do you, just give us a high level, but how do you conduct your one-on-ones that you do every week?
So, I do try to keep a running agenda. Not always, but, have a running agenda. I always say, what do you have on your agenda? What do you got? What do you got? Let them talk. What do you have? And then, there's some accountability, like we're working on this project, where you on that, or we have this piece we're working on, or we're doing, some book, some realtor book touches where we're sending them books with a note and a pretty box and all that, and kind of doing, that's like loan officer building stuff. So it varies from person to person, but I always start with, what do you got on your agenda? That is the first thing. Leading from behind, like, what do you got? How can I help you? What do you need from me? It's not me saying, here's what we're doing. Da, 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 da. It's like, no, what do you have? What's your challenge? What can I help you?
Do you ask them to kind of create a list that they compile over the course of a week in between meetings, so then they come in with their hit list of things they want to talk with you about, or are they pretty much just going off memory?
I think that because we've been doing them so long, they already have been kind of jotting it down and they have their list. But yeah, that's a great idea. If you're starting your one-on-ones from scratch, is be like, write stuff down. If it's urgent, like if it's like a loan question, you got to answer this, like, don't wait. We can just one off that. But if it's like more like big picture business planning project, check in, like be taking notes. And then when you come, let's talk about it. You've got it all on your agenda.
Do you use Todoist or any other type of a time and task management tool?
No, I'm a Word doc. I'm a heavy Outlook calendar. Everything's color coded, time blocked, very much.
Yeah, I asked because
Outlook is kind of my task.
That's your main thing. Yeah, well, I used to use the Outlook tasks feature, a long time ago now when I was at Loan Toolbox. But the nice thing in Todoist is that you can create like a project such as, each of these one-on-ones, and then you can both add to that list as the week unfolds. And then so this is what Scott and Julie and I do when we have the huddle every Monday, is that we just have a project that's a shared project in Todoist. And like, if I think of something that I want to talk with them about today, knowing that our meeting isn't until Monday, I'm just going to go in there, I'm going to add it in there, and that becomes our meeting agenda. And we just go through the list, and it's a way for all of us to be organized. And because trying to remember all the shit as the week unfolds is difficult. And then that kind of makes us prone to then just interrupting people, right? Because we're afraid we're going to forget. So we just get it off of our plate and dump it into their email or barge into their office or whatever now. So
we actually do use, just one quick thing on that, we do use OneNote. So OneNote's really cool, where our pipeline's in OneNote, and so we can be making, notes, and then we have different tabs. So we could use OneNote for that, where each person has a tab in the main OneNote document. And then you kind of brain dump in there, and then we access that together because it's live. It updates. We all can update it live. It's like a Google shared doc.
Sure.
But I like OneNote.
I'm familiar with OneNote. I know people that use it and like it as well. So that's a good suggestion. All right. So bringing this down the home stretch here, You probably have to pee, I would imagine, because I sure do, and it's been
I
almost
don't.
an hour and a
I
half.
went before. I went before.
I
And I
did
got
too, but
thirsty, so I had to drink.
I did too. But when you're on a cleanse, it's just kind of a natural part of the process.
Oh,
So
yes.
I've been
Yes.
sitting here with my legs crossed for about 15 minutes, Kelly, just kind of. But that's not to say that I want you to give us the Cliff Notes version of the answer to this final question.
Okay.
Take all the time you want, and I will hold it.
Okay. I'll go extra slow, Tim.
Yeah, if we could turn the clock back and you could talk to your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell her?
Oh, so you didn't prep me for that. So I got to think before I just speak. Gosh, 18 was a really interesting time. We won't go there, but just in terms of what I was dealing with and kind of my demons were in full force. And I went through some really amazing life transformation, changing, went to some self-help conference as a young person. But I would say, practicing gratitude and recognizing that I'm not alone in these negative kind of spiral thoughts, and just really practicing staying in, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I would say, and I know you have to go pee, so sorry.
Take your time. I'm good.
I would say gratitude. And being very careful of what I listen to, who I listen to, what I read. Have fun. Hey, I'm a party girl. I love to have fun. You know that. But I think I would have been a little bit more selective on who I surrounded myself by, that were my clan.
Yeah, I think that's interesting you say that. Been working really hard over the last 6-9 months, I would say now, for obvious reasons, and I feel like I've gotten detached from my tribe a little bit. I think it's really important that we identify who our tribe is, and we make sure that we're spending time with those people on a consistent basis, right? I mean, for me, it's like a group of people. It's not any specific people, although there are a few, but it's like just being in environments where people are looking to go higher in their consciousness, in their own personal work, just trying to achieve a more self-actualized version of themselves, and I'm inspired when I see people like that, and I'm around people like that. It's actually one of the things that I've absolutely loved about the last 90 minutes together. I mean, it's been too long since we've talked, and I wanted to say thank you. I mean, it's been really beautiful for me to see and learn from you and see where you've come in the last maybe 18 months or whatever it's been since we've talked. And I'm happy for you, and I'm also grateful to you for being such a giving teacher in this conversation. And you're even reflecting to me that, like, I like talking to people like you that are on your path, that are doing your work, that are self-reflective, that are taking personal responsibility, that are owning the fullness of your human experience and all of these things. So yeah, so beautiful. And I'm happy for you too, Kelly.
And thank you. I mean, I feel the same. Like, I will end our call and be in a much better space and flying high and feeling so good and having a pep to my step. Like it's amazing, like, how another human being can have such an impact on us, good and bad. So just having an awareness of who are you surrounding yourself by.
Yeah, no shitheads allowed, right, Kel?
Right. I mean, because you feel like shit, or even like listening to the news, and then you feel anxiety and negative, and oh my God, what's our world coming to? And like, ignore that shit. Just focus on what you've got and head forward.
I love it. We're ending on that note. That's perfect. Forget that shit. Move forward. Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know that you're going to get a lot of people that are reaching out to you and expressing gratitude for this time, because you really, really brought your full self to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. I so appreciate it. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.